Okay, so today we're going to take a look at comparing fractions. Before we get started, we need to do a little bit of warm-up to our problem of the day. With your group, on your whiteboards, I want you to solve this. The sum of a number and the same number multiplied by itself is 72. What is the number? Show how you found your answer. Get started with your group. Okay, so what we're going to do, this was our example. You can see that that's not going to give us our number. So 6 plus 6 equals what?
12.
Then we have 6 multiplied by 12 equals 6 times 2 is 12. Carry my 1. 6 times 1 is 6 plus 1 is 72. So there it is. So it's 6 plus 6. Okay? Good? Okay. We're going to identify the first three common multiples of each set of numbers for 1 and 2, and then you're going to find the least common multiple of each set of the second numbers. Now, the first three common multiples, what does that mean? So that means we're going to have 2, 4, so we're going to go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. 4, 8, 12. So 12 is a common multiple, 8 is a common multiple, 4 is a common multiple. So there's all three. You see how I did that? Okay, so you're going to do 2, 3, 4, and 5 on your whiteboards. Get started. Alright, so there's our common multiples for our common coefficient. Now, we're going to start comparing fractions. We're going to use the symbols less than, greater than, or equal to. Alright? So, in this, they want us to represent 3/4 using models and represent 5/8 using models. And then figure out which one of the models represents the greater fraction. Alright? Okay, so 3/4 using models. So this is 1/4, correct? There's 2/4. And there's 3/4. Then it wants us to represent 5/8. So we come down here and we grab the 8, and we need 5 of these. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, according to our models, which one is the greater fraction? The 3/4. Because look, if we draw a straight line here, I guess it would help if I got my lines closer, huh? If I drew this line and had it on the edge there, and my other line over here was on the edge here, boom, you can see that 3/4 is greater than 5/8. Now, I realize that there's space in between them and all that, but you get the general idea. So there's 3/4 is greater than 5/8. Okay? So that's how you can compare using modeling. Alright? Now, we're going to use the least common multiples, and then we're going to use the symbols less than, greater than, or equal to to compare 6/7 and 5/6. So what we want to do, we're going to create a common denominator. So right now, these have unlike denominators. We have 7 and 6, okay? So we want to find the least common multiple of 7 and 6, and we're going to create fractions that have a common denominator. So far, so good? All right, so we're going to start with multiples of 7. So 7, what's next? 14. Next.
21.
Next.
28.
After 28?
35. 42.
40 what?
49.
49. Then we're going to go to 6. We have 6.
12. 18. 24. 36. 36. 42. 48.
Okay. So now we're going to find the least common multiple. What's the least common multiple of 7 and 6?
42.
Opinion.
42.
42. It's right here. Now we need to figure out what times 7 is 42. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 7 times 6 is 42. Okay? So we're going to write an equivalent fraction on all these with the denominator of 42. So that means that if 7 times 6 is 42, 6 times 6 is going to be the other number. So 6 times 6 is
36.
7 times 6 is.
42.
So then we come over here. 6 times what equals 42?
7.
7. Now look at. We're finding equivalent fractions, okay? So that means that we need to multiply this fraction by something that's equal to 1. We know we have to multiply 6 by 7. So we're multiplying 6 times 7. What's the top of my fraction that I'm multiplying by need to be? 7. Because 7 over 7 equals what? 1. So 5 6 times 1 is 5 6. It's just going to look different. Okay. 6 times 7 is 42. 5 times 7 is.
35.
So here's the cool thing about comparing fractions. Okay? Once you have a common denominator, you can ignore the denominator. Who cares? It's there, it's the same, that's fine. Okay? All I care about now is the numerators. So once I did the step that I just did, this is probably going to be the easiest comparing that you've ever done because it goes all the way back to like kindergarten. Alright? Because all I want to know is 36 greater than 35? Or is 35 greater than 36?
36 is greater than 35.
Good job, Dennis. 36 is greater than 35. If that's the case, then 36 40-seconds is greater than 35 40-seconds. Okay? That's it. The numerator decides the entire thing once the denominators are the same. Once you have a common denominator, all you have to do is compare the numerators. So you're comparing a single number on both sides. And then you have to rewrite it. Right? So, because of all that, 36 40-seconds is actually, that's what I wrote to represent 6/7. Okay? So 6/7 is greater than the 35 40-seconds is 5 6. 5 6. Your classwork that you're going to be doing. You are going to have to show how you came up with the common denominator for showing your work. If you don't show where the common denominator came from, I'm going to think that you watched our video and didn't do your work. Right, Dakota? Okay. So, moving on. Here's our examples. Make sure you follow along, fill out your book. So first thing I want to do is find the least common denominator of 2/3 and 5/6. So I have 3 and 6. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 3 times 3. 3 times 4. Alright, I don't know why I kept writing numbers, but I just felt like it. I'm done. There's my least common denominator. It's 6. Okay. So the least common multiple of 3 and 6 is 6. So the least common denominator is going to also be 6. So we're going to find fractions with a denominator of 6. Okay? So here we go. I have 2/3. So 2/3 times, remember 2 over 2 equals 1. So I'm multiplying 2/3 by 1. 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 2 is 6. Now come over, 5 times 1 is 5. 6 times 1 is 6. My denominators are now the same. So all I'm going to do is compare my numerators. Yes, once the denominators are the same, this is very, very simple math. Alright, here we're going. This is so easy. Yeah. Because if you don't know that which one's greater between 4 and 5, by the time you're in 5th grade, you have issues. So, you're going to compare the numerators. 4 is less than 5. Okay? So that means that 4/6 is less than 5/6. Which also means that since 4/6 is equal to 2/3, 2/3 is less than 5/6. So, this says Trevor made 2 out of 3 goals and Tyler made 5 out of 6 goals. Who made the greatest fraction of goals? Trevor, Tyler. Who made the greatest fraction of goals? Tyler did. Okay, check it. They want you to check using models. So you can see, according to my models, if I can get these to line up right. There's a line going right there. There's my line going right there, which means 2/3 is less than 5/6. Okay? Alright, example number 2. We're going to compare 3/5 and 1/2 using the least common denominator. That's what we just did. Least common denominator, least common multiple. Same thing. Okay? Least common multiple. Least common denominator. Least common denominator equals least common multiple. Or LCM. They're the same thing. So last night we did least common multiples, correct? Today we're doing the same thing. After we're done, we're going to see whether or not the numerators are different. Okay? So 5 and 2. We're going to count by 5, right? So we have 5. What's next?
10, 20.
Alright, I'm going to stop there because I'm doing multiplication to 2 in my head, and I know for sure that 2 times 10 is 20, and So I know at least I have one common multiple, right? So I know everybody's like, Mr. Bevel, why are you doing this? I already know what it is. Yeah, okay. Let's not skip any steps because tonight you're gonna have some more difficult numbers. Okay? So I need to start at 2. So I have 2 and then
4, 6, 8, 10.
okay, I can stop. Because I have a 10 here and I have a 10 here, so my least common multiple is what? There we go. So we're gonna find the equivalent fractions with a denominator of 10. So our first one that we're going to look at, 3/5. 5 times what equals 10? 2. So I have a 2 on the bottom. I need a 2 on the top. That way I'm multiplying it by 1. Right? So 2 halves is equal to 1. Multiply this by 1. I have the same fraction. It just looks different. But it'll be identical. Okay? So 5 times 2 is 10. 3 times 2 is 6. Then I come over and I say, okay, I have 1/2. So 2 times what equals 10? 5. So 2 times 5 is 10. 1 times 5 is 5. Okay, so now my denominators are the same. All I have to do is compare my numerators. So I'm comparing 6 and 5. Now, 6 is greater than 5. So, 6/10 is greater than 5/10. That's the way it is. Okay? So that means that 3/5, which 6/10 represented 3/5, is greater than 1/2. Come down here, we check with our models. And you can see that 3/5, that much of it is more than 1/2. Okay? Alright, so you got to practice. Before I let you go on your independent practice, we're going to compare 1/5 and 1/3 using LCD. LCD is not your TV at home. LCD is least common denominator, which is the same thing as least common multiple. They're identical. Same thing. What is the least common denominator? Yes. It is the least common multiple. Thank you. They're the same thing. Okay? So I'm going to start with my 5. Count by 5 is 5. Okay. Then I'm going to go to my 3. I have 3. And I can stop. So my least common multiple, or my least common denominator, is 15. Okay? So then I take my 1/5 and I say 1/5 times what equals 15? 5 times what equals 15? Well, 1, 2, 3. So I have 3 over 3. 3 over 3 equals 1. I'm going to end up with the same fraction. 5 times 3 is 15. 1 times 3 is 3. And then I go to my 1/3 and I say 3 times what equals 15? Well, I can 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 3 times 5 equals 15. 1 times 5 equals 5. The 15s are here. They're the same now. So the only thing I'm comparing, the numerators 5 and 3. What's greater, 5 or 3? 5 is greater than 3. So, 1/3 is greater than 1/5, or 1/5 is less than 1/3. All right. Speak now or forever hold your peace. These common multiples last night, we were good? Yes? Because I think if we were good with these common multiples, we're going to be good with this. You guys ready to run? All right, get started.